The setting for Bret Harte's short story, The Luck of Roaring Camp, is the coarsest, meanest, toughest mining town in the Wild West of 1805, a terrible place where theft and murder were commonplace. The only woman in the camp, an unmarried woman named Cherokee Sal, became pregnant but died in childbirth. The situation was novel. Deaths were by no means uncommon in Roaring Camp, but a birth was a new thing. The men in that harsh place took her infant and put him in a box that once had shipped dynamite sticks. They placed some old flannel rags under the baby. The child presented a dilemma to Roaring Camp. Now there was a baby present needing to be raised by men who knew nothing but drinking and fighting. The men of Roaring Camp were the last people you would expect to be nannies. They named the baby Luck, Tommy Luck. An old cabin would serve as his nursery. Men who had never cleaned a room in their life were down on the floor scrubbing away. They washed down the walls and the ceiling, and they put lace curtains on the windows. One of the men rode 80 miles to buy a rosewood cradle. The men took turns taking care of the baby. To hold him and to sing to him was considered a privilege. They demanded from each other previously unheard of things, such as decent language and cleanliness. Since babies need a lot of sleep, they stopped their raucous brawling and fighting. And as the boy began to imitate sounds, they stopped swearing. Since babies shouldn't be left alone, they took the cradle with them out to where they were digging and working, by the entrance of the mine, and one of the men would stay next to him while the others worked. The camp became more quiet and dignified, less noisy and boisterous, no longer the roaring camp of the story's title. One baby had changed the whole town of Roaring Creek. One baby changes our lives in this Christmas season. The baby Jesus, who is the center of the Holy Family. But today's gospel gives center stage to Joseph, the husband of Mary, the mother of God, and truly the caretaker of the Holy Family. Today it is Joseph who is approached by the divine messenger. In his homily 1 week ago, Pope Francis said, "In a difficult situation, St. Joseph puts his whole trust in God and was obedient, an example for all Catholics to imitate. St. Joseph does not preach, does not speak, but tries to do the will of God, and he does it in the style of the gospel and of the Beatitudes." Reflecting on the first chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, where St. Joseph and the Virgin Mary are betrothed, but not yet living together as husband and wife, and Mary becomes pregnant by the Holy Spirit, Pope Francis elaborates. Matthew's Gospel guides us towards Christmas through the experience of Joseph, of Saint Joseph, a figure apparently of secondary importance, but in whose attitude is enclosed all Christian wisdom. Before May 1st, 2013, St. Joseph was conspicuously absent in 3 of the Eucharistic prayers. But by the authority of Pope Francis, we will pray today. May he make of us an eternal offering to you, so that we may obtain inheritance with your elect, especially with the most blessed Virgin Mary, Mother of God, with blessed Joseph, her spouse, with your blessed apostles and glorious martyrs. St. Joseph is described in the Gospel as a discreet but determined man, virtues that Pope Francis values. St. Joseph had considered quietly calling off his marriage, of sending Mary away to have her baby out of the scrutiny of her neighbors in Nazareth. But an angel appeared to him in a dream and told him not to be afraid. At this point, the Pope said, Joseph entrusts himself completely to God, obeys the word of the angel, and takes Mary as his wife. The Pope continues, I have a great love for St. Joseph because he is a man of silence and strength. On my table, I have an image of St. Joseph sleeping. Even when he is asleep, he is taking care of the church. Remember, Pope Francis chose March 19th, 2013, the feast of St. Joseph, as the day of his papal inauguration. St. Joseph protected the Holy Family, even going to the length of going into exile in Egypt to escape the clutches of Herod, who was trying to kill his son, the newborn Messiah. He provided for the Holy Family, working as a carpenter. Mary fills her place in the Holy Family, depending on Joseph to protect and care for the family, even as she nurtured the infant Jesus, and then as she cared for her son and supported him throughout her life, even though she knew a sword would pierce her heart, as Simeon foretold. Later, without Joseph, Mary will stand beneath the cross as the Lord entrusts John and all of us to her motherly protection and care. At Roaring Camp, the presence of a baby transformed rough men from being self-centered to becoming selfless. On the Feast of the Holy Family, we are called to the holiness and selflessness that is the heart of the Christian family. The Feast of the Holy Family reminds us that we are part of a human family. And today, when we gather around the table of the Eucharist, we are called to remember that we are part of God's family, the Church.